You're listening to the Coupling Up podcast. Ending a relationship can be profoundly difficult. Some people go their whole lives without ever truly moving on. So wouldn't it be great to have a professional who can guide you all the way through it? Someone who could give singles struggling with breakups, dating games, or loneliness the best tips for finding healthier romance. Well, you found her. This is the Coupling Up podcast, and this is your host and teacher, Sean Davis.
Hey, it's Sean with the Coupling Up podcast, and today's episode, I'm going to share another one of those Reddit users' posts on dating and getting what some people are calling fleabagging. That is coined by the popular British show Fleabag, and we're going to talk about it and how to get through it coming up now. If never-ending, poor-fitting partners, then you might be living this modern dating trend right now. Even though this is a trend we're focusing on today, it really is a human behavior that exists in many settings. You're going to find your friends and people who encourage you towards certain attractions. You may find yourself doing this with jobs or other things in your life. So let's say that you are dating the stereotypical athletic male. What comes with this type? Well, as the stereotype goes, it's someone who doesn't cry, pushes through pain, and ignores opinions of others. This person, including their faults, might be the part of what makes you unhappy and stuck in this stream of bad-fitting partners. So let's dive into this trend of accepting the wrong types and see what examples we can find as we dive down that Reddit rabbit hole now. Today's story comes from someone explaining that their attraction is to the wrong types. And the really interesting part of this one is that it comes from a therapist. I thought this would be interesting for you since we can see how people, even with specialized training like counseling or potentially pastoral work or any other type of coaching gig, and you can see that even a therapist can have a reaction to unavailable partners, meaning they find themselves digging people who just aren't right for them. So let's get into today's question. How do you overcome an attraction to dating the wrong people and start pursuing people you know are better for you? Last week, there was a post about someone saying their picker was broken, meaning they always end up choosing partners who are bad for them in one way or another. It seemed to be a popular response to say that people end up picking dysfunctional relationships that mimic those of their childhoods. It's what feels comfortable to you, and you want to try to fix the situation as an adult. As a former therapist, I completely agree. Yet, I do the same thing myself. I am attracted to emotionally unavailable men in a variety of forms and have never once felt an attraction to guys who are open emotionally or are just flat out nice to me all the time. I've tried to force myself to date these nice guys, but I'm never actually into it. Should people like me and the original OP flat out ignore our attraction to the wrong people and only date guys who fit into the on-paper list of what we know we need but never pursue? It seems impossible to me to make a relationship work when there's no attraction. I keep thinking there must be someone out there who I feel attracted to who is also kind, open, etc. But I've yet to meet him. I've worked on this issue in therapy. I've one thing to acknowledge the problem and another to actually fix it. If you have this issue and have confronted it, how were you able to do it? I'm attracted to emotionally unavailable guys. Do I stop pursuing my attraction and date people who are open but feel no spark with? So let's dive into today's tip now. I can personally relate to this struggle, and I think you would find that being in general consensus with dating that this is just true for most people. It's hard to not repeat what you know, even by pure accident. You see, I was always stuck in this loop of dating, just like this poster and the original poster that they referred to, is that I would always find myself attracted to people who were not so good with emotions. So what I did is kind of what the poster today is getting advice on is I dated some really what I would call boring types for a bit. Now, my goal was not to match with them. I mean, if it happened, I was not going to be pushing that away, but this was just to sort of reset my radar on why I did this. So I wasn't trying to really like get married or have this long-term commitment with anybody. I was in college and I knew that I was dating the wrong types because of what I felt sexy around, right? And so I dated, and when I say dated, I don't mean long term dating. I went on like first, second, third kind of dates with people who I didn't really find much attraction on. And I did this so that I could get to know individual people. I wouldn't allow myself to say no until I had met that person. So let's say that if it's on an app, I see their picture, I see this like basic, attractive enough kind of person, then I would force myself to be a person who said yes most of the time. And for me, it worked. I dated people I was more attracted to after that, but only after I was able to see myself more comfortable with what I was calling boring and what I thought was wrong for me. And it's not because the people were wrong or they were really boring people. It's that I didn't connect with my heart with them. So it felt boring to me because I didn't have that fire. I was missing the emotional men was the problem. And I'm not talking about angry, aggro kind of people. I'm talking about the people who they might cry at a movie. You know, they're not like a depressed person, maybe. Maybe they are, but it's somebody who has a natural emotional experience. Um, I wanted someone who would pay attention to my haircuts, who would notice when I did something nice, but like the poster, I just wasn't finding myself attracted to what I thought those types were. So I had to let go of my Hollywood kind of expectation list, like where you might fall in love with the actor from Thor or something like that. So, in a nutshell, I do agree that dating with what works on paper is probably a good experiment. Now, again, this isn't how you live your life in dating, it's an experiment. But not getting into these relationships with the people you're doing this experiment with, but what you're doing is seeing how it works out for you if you give people a chance you would normally say no to. Just date around with these people you see that might be good on paper. But don't do it for long. Maybe do it for like a month or something like that, where you go on a few dates, you try it out, and see what happens after you get to know people. For me, it opened my eyes to toxic masculinity expectations I was putting on the men in my life. I remember those guys too, the ones that I thought were like the boring types, and they were nice, they were respectful. The thing that I realized through dating and doing this experiment is that I needed exploration and emotional safety at the same time. So I needed a balance of play and safe. I needed mystery and that tension of not knowing, as well as this super, super just like safety net I could fall into at any time. So, in the end, dating is about finding out about who you are as a dater, knowing these expectations that can get placed on your dating life, and remembering that there are no right types or perfect people out there for anybody. There are many, many imperfect people who are capable to adapting to you and you adapting to them. So that's my tip for today, is to do an experiment when you find yourself dating certain types and date the opposite kind for a little bit and see if that resets your radar. And if you find that you've been saying no a little too readily, then you might be finding out a little more about what you need as you move forward with dating and as you get out there, remember to have fun with this. Dating is not meant to be a stressful experiment, and we do need to take time out to date ourselves for a little bit when that happens. So have fun out there, my single friend, and stay safe until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Coupling Up podcast. Sean is a professional, licensed clinical social worker, and it's her mission to help you find healthier romance. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, go to the website, renewthelove.com. While there, learn how to send messages in a dating app that shine. A free quickie course. Also, find the Readiness to Date checklist. Identify if you're ready to date or need to focus on healing first. See you next time on the Coupling Up podcast.